Hi, I'm SarinaSorrenti. I am one of the co-founders of Engage Consulting Group, and I'm very honoured to be on the Online Prosperity Show with Prosper. Together, we're going to explore how life forms and grows and helps us be the best we can be. Looking forward to sharing that with you.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the premier destination for exclusive insights into the journeys of remarkable individuals that are shaping the business world. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a truly inspiring guest whose story is a testament for resilience, creativity, and unwavering passion. Now, Sarina, how are you doing today?
I'm really well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Yes, I'm doing well. Beautiful day here in the office. Sun is shining. So yeah, I'm happy and present.
But Sarina, you in Melbourne, you shouldn't talk about the weather. By the time I look up, guess what's
Yeah.
going to happen? It's going to be a completely different world. And then I'm going to think you're lying.
Oh, but that doesn't mean if the weather changes, that it gives you an opportunity to experience something different. So it doesn't mean doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative thing at all. So I love the rain. The rain that came on over the weekend was magnificent. My
Yeah.
garden is so happy and lush now because it's been so dry. But yet the sun, the sun inspires.
Good stuff. What do you have in your garden?
I have olive trees. So I have about 5 olive trees, and they are very symbolic for me. My father, who lived in Italy, had a farm of an olive grove. So for me, and he passed away 3 years ago. For me, it really is a symbol of my ancestry and also his the connection to him.
Absolutely. And I've heard olive trees are not easy to look after. I mean, there's a lot of work involved. Have you had really good crop off of them?
Yeah, we marinate our own olives. My husband's also got an Italian background, so we have a recipe from his family tradition, and we marinate them each year, and they're beautiful. It just feels very homely. That's what it feels like, and yeah, very special to be able to pick those olives yourself. Picking them is the hardest part. The actual trees themselves are very easy to maintain.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that bit of heritage on your past. And for those that are watching right now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, is this video about an Italian deli? Now, let me get us back on track here. So joining us is SarinaSorrenti, who is a dynamic entrepreneur who has seamlessly blended strategic acumen with the artistic flair. Now, she's the co-founder of Engage Consulting Group, and Sarina has dedicated her career to empowering individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. And beyond her roles as a coach, advisor, and strategist, she's also a published poet and storyteller. And as you've heard, she's also a prolific olive gardener and olive farmer. So this all illustrates her belief that creativity and business success are deeply intertwined. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into Sarina's transformative journey from her roots in a migrant family with traditional views to also becoming pioneering business leader. And we're going to explore the challenges that she's faced and the pivotal moments that have shaped her path, and also the innovative ways that she's helping others achieve growth and fulfillment. So sit back and prepare to be inspired by a conversation that I think promises to be both insightful and heartwarming. Now, Sarina, we've already spoken about your green thumb and things of that nature, but I understand you were born on a dairy farm. What was that like? Waking up to the sound of cows.
Well, that was all I knew. It was very wholesome. It was very natural. It allowed me to really be connected to the life of the country, which is like outdoors, animals, fresh milk, fresh produce, And that really has stayed with me, the importance of animal care, caring for the environment, understanding how connected we are to the environment and source. But also growing up in a migrant family, I was the youngest of four children, and knowing how the hard work mentality of migrants and how important it was that every single day that we were all working, even myself. I have this vivid memory of driving the tractor at the age of 5 as my dad was giving out the hay to the new calves. It was just, it was very uh, it was a good memory. Those parts of living on the farm were a really good memory. The migrant family part, not so much sometimes, very, very expressive and chaotic and challenging. But that's also part of why I'm here, to learn from that and grow from that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that tidbit of your life there. And I can attest to, having to deal with animals and also looking after them for sustenance or whatever food, subscription that they were issuing. If you ask my kids now, they think milk comes from cows. And it's something that I'm really trying to find somebody with a farm so we can go and maybe just camp out and they can have that sort of experience. So you mentioned at 5 years old, you were already driving tractors and doing the day-to-day sort of chores at the farm. Can you maybe explain what a typical morning would have been like for you? Because at
Yeah.
5, you would have thought you're probably going to school already.
I did end up going to school at 5, but beforehand it was pretty much shadowing my parents who were working on the farm. So if it was in the dairy place itself, I can't remember what we call it, the dairy where the cows get milked, I would be in their shadow, following them around, helping out where I could. If they were in the market garden, I would be with them, helping them, packing things, following them. It was just expected that you're actually part of, when you're born in the family, you are a contributor to the family. Everyone contributes, and you're given a lot of responsibility from a very young age. And I didn't know any better, so I did that. And I grew up very fast. So that's a positive and a negative. And I took on a lot of responsibility at a very young age, which helped me become quite mature very fast. But also, I lost my childhood. I lost my ability to play. I lost my ability to have more fun in life. It was hard. It was a hard life. But I appreciate that's the best my parents could do for me, and where they'd come from, it was so much harder. Like, they lived through war. They were poor. They had nothing. They sometimes didn't have enough food to eat. So for me to be at this stage of their life, and it was still a blessing. So it was a hard upbringing, but it was I don't know, it helped me grow up very quickly. And also, as I said, that connectedness, being connected to source, being connected to the environment, not being separate, knowing if I worked, there would be a return for my energy and effort. And if we all contributed, we would all benefit from it.
Absolutely. And I would want to just maybe contrast that with what other kids your age might have been experiencing. What was
Yeah.
school days like, and what sort of conversations would you have with other kids that didn't have your
Well,
exposure?
the best example was when I went to school for the first day, and my parents had no idea. They didn't speak English. They didn't understand it wasn't actually the first day of school for preppies. So my brother put me on a bus with him. He went to high school that day. He dropped me off at the primary school and just left me there. No other kids were there. So I
Mm.
spent the whole day with the teacher. And when my father picked me up at the end of the day, he just, shrugged it off as if, oh, yeah, no, no, it was nothing. Now, today, how much effort do we put in to make sure that we onboard our children, we're there, we're supportive? It's such a contrast.
Mm.
Um, so there's some of the things I remember about being a kid. Also, I suppose the freedom that kids had, like being able to play sports and have sleepovers and go to each other's houses. They're things that were not condoned for a girl in my family at the time. It was different if you were a boy. So it was very different rights as well. So for my brother, he had more rights because he was just male. As females, no, we were much more I would say, demeaned and closeted because our roles were to be serving of the males in the family. And that was the thinking at the time.
Absolutely. Now, of the four kids, how many of those were male and female?
Three female and one male. And I was the youngest, and all my siblings are a lot older than me. So 15 years, 11 years, and 8 years. So I was a bit of a happy accident, I think. And so I would say they copped it a lot harder than I did in terms of growing up at that time. And I think being so much younger, I observed what they went through. And then I realized that to follow in their footsteps, get married young, not maybe not have a career, be more of a subservient role in a partnership, that did not fit with me at all.
Mm,
So that actually gave me data to and experience to learn to be different and learn to want different.
absolutely. And I mean, obviously, growing up in that sort of environment, all you knew was what was around you. And like you said, you were
Yeah,
gathering information and
yeah.
data.
Mm.
What was it like when you then turned into a teenager? Did you
Yeah.
actually have aspirations of, what it would look like?
It would, yeah. Well, teenagehood made me, well, beforehand, I was very quiet and compliant, very compliant. When I hit high school, I woke up and I woke up very, very rebelliously, but in a rebellious, contained manner, if that's possible, where I was curious and I wanted to have friends and I wanted to have experiences. And I always remember my year 11 coordinator, the way he asked me one day, what do you want to do with your life? It was such a big question. What do you want to do with your life? And no one had ever asked me what I want to do with my life. It was like, it was all laid out for me by my parents and expectations. And he
Mm,
woke me up and I realized I actually have a choice. And when I answered the question, all I could say to him was, I want to help people. And he said, well, what does that look like? Does that mean you're going to become, join a religious order? Or what does that look like? And I said, well, it's not going to be joining a religious order, but I just know I'm here to help people. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm curious to find out.
mm. Somebody would have thought, having been brought up around a farm, with all the animals, you probably had your own little petting zoo as toys and things of that nature. And
Yeah.
you would have wanted to work with animals as opposed to working with people. Why people?
Oh, I think the other part of growing up, well, animals were there animals were there to serve us. So we ate the animals or we lived off the animals. So you couldn't get too friendly to the animals. Even though I had a pet cow for a short period of time, the animals were there all to work for us or to be served to us. So it was a very different way of looking at animals at that time. In regards to people, I could see suffering around me. I could see suffering in my family. I could see I don't know. I just knew that there's a better way. I just deep, deep inside it, we talk about calling and purpose. I
Mhm.
just know that there would be a better way to be. And even when I was at high school, I remember, with my friends, I would play sort of the psych, like helping people through their problems. And that was part of it. Just came naturally. It was just what I was meant to do.
And you're talking about high school and obviously pursuing education, and I'm also just wanting to reflect back on how tight knit your family would have been.
Mm.
What was it like when you wanted to expand your horizons and pursue?
Not good. Not good at all. No, my parents were not supportive at the beginning. Um, I used school as a bit of a positive weapon. I did very well at school. Yeah, I just did very well at school, and I really loved school. School was my freedom, where I could truly be creative in myself. So I had a lot of peer pressure from my school to my parents about supporting me to leave the small country town and go to university. No Italian migrant child had left my town to go to university at the time. So I was the first one. And I think what really helped me was my brother. He was already in Melbourne and he basically told my father, I'll look after her. She can live with me. And he convinced my parents for me to come and live in Melbourne, and that changed my life. And I just think I was very opportunistic and very lucky because all those things seemed to happen all at once without having me to rebel, but just to do well at what I loved.
And obviously when you've got family that's that supportive, especially, like your brother,
Yeah.
it makes a whole difference. What was life like stepping into Melbourne? Because I remember coming around here and I'm looking at the grid city. All I knew is if I ever get lost, I will just keep going north and I will find Flinders Street Station. Like,
Mm.
what was it
And
like for you?
it was such a contrast to being coming from a small country town, as you'd know. Uh, for me, in a country town, everyone knew me. I knew everyone. Everyone knew each other's business. Here, I was anonymous. And I
Mm.
love that. I love that people didn't know me at the time. It was really the most enlightening point for me, an encouraging point. But when I came and I looked at the Arts Centre precinct, when Gallery of Victoria is now, I fell in love with that space. I just fell in love with it. I thought, this is where I need to be. Not so much the city. It was all around the Arts Centre. That to me was just, I don't know, heaven. It felt like heaven at the time. And then moving into Melbourne and the getting used to the roads and going to university and being independent, that was fine. That was freedom. It was about me being able to be myself, drive my car places, make friends, go and socialize. It was a really sweet time of my life. It was wonderful.
Absolutely. And what then happened after higher education? Did we get into career? Where did we
Yeah,
go?
yeah. I was very, very lucky to. I completed an accounting degree and a marketing degree. Um, I loved marketing. I just loved buyer behavior. That was my favorite subject. Again, there's a bit of a pattern here around what I enjoy doing. I was very fortunate to get a graduate program with Kodak, and Kodak at the time was number one in the marketplace. It was best practice. It was a fantastic organized, and it was also manufacturing here in Melbourne. So we had both the manufacturing commercial side and consumer side. And I was very lucky to have great mentors and great opportunities to work on change and transformation. And because of my upbringing, again, you work hard, you achieve. I was able to just progress my career very quickly because I knew the work ethic. I knew how to do things. I knew how to get things done. So
Mm.
that came back to me again, but in a completely different way. And then it was 5 years or 6 years at Kodak, but during that time, Kodak went through a mass transformation. They won the Australian Quality Prize. I was part of that team to create the prize and make sure that we could sustain it. And one of my general managers that I was working with as a change agent said to me, this is about people in your life who tell you things you don't know about yourself. He said to me, you have a very clear talent around explaining complex things in an easy manner for people to learn quickly. And I didn't know that about myself. So it's a teaching, facilitating, coaching. In other words, that was something that I could do naturally. And that differentiated me from my peers. And that again reinforced my helping. I love to get people to new insights. I love to help people grow. I love to help businesses succeed. I love to look at ways that we can create and innovate to do things better, faster, more quality, more impactfully, more sustainably. And it was one of the managers I worked with who told me that. And that's when I got into coaching.
Absolutely. I mean, you always want that person, no matter who they are, to just be the wind beneath your wings and elevate you to the next stage because, having that confidence that you had from that person, the change agent, that you are good at coaching, obviously would have gotten you into that sort of space. Well, and you were now literally doing the one thing that you love, which is helping people.
Helping people. Yeah.
Right.
And,
And
and I like business. I love business. I love achieving it. I've worked with companies that transform from a loss-making organization to a profit-making organization, commercializing new ideas in any industry. So I love that creation. Talk about creativity. Business is all about creativity. it's creating something of value that others need to grow, learn, and live their lives better. How more creative could that be?
Absolutely. And usually it's something that never existed, and only
Correct.
only the innovator or the creative person can see the vision, while other people are helping build it behind the scenes or things of that nature. So this may explain, your journey now in the multiple startups that you have been involved in. Maybe you could just give us a cross section of what that
Yeah.
sort of.
Well, after I worked at Kodak, I moved to the Australian Quality Council. And at the time, they were the peak body for excellence in Australia. Again, I wanted to demonstrate, well, if we could make best practice here at Kodak, how can we do that across the organisation, other parts of the country, other organisations? I learnt so much in those 3 years I was there. I was lobbying government, I was working in the health department, and I was facilitating countrywide change. So that gave me an insight around systemic change, and it made me grow up around there is so much vested interest in keeping things the way they are.
Like the status quo, right?
Yeah, because there's so much personal gain by people. So it showed me such a contrast to my first 5, 6 years at Kodak, which was all about improvement, excellence, caring, getting a better product, getting more sustainable business. So then I realized, wow, well, there's such a contrast here. Like there actually are organizations, because I was only about that age, I was probably 26. There are organizations out there who aren't actually designed to make things better. They're here to actually keep things the way they are. And it really was like a big, whoa, okay. So then I realized, well, the world isn't all roses, that it isn't all great. There are so many institutional systems in place that don't want to work for the higher good. So from there, I realized if I'm any good at, my change agent, consulting, coaching self, I need to run my own business and work with organizations who have the desire to move forward. Because if you don't have the desire to move forward, I'm not going to work for them. And there's no way, it's just a waste of time and energy. So the first company was actually the very first company was a company called E-based consulting. It was in the .com era, and we were the first company to automate surveys and put them online. SurveyMonkey now. SurveyMonkey did not exist, so this was the first version of it. And we got together with some partners, and we created the concept. We trialed it with a couple of clients. We got to the commercialization stage of selling some services, but then we decided there wasn't enough in it for us from an investment point of view to continue with that business.
Right.
But we learned so much. So that was our first one. We then formed Engage Consulting Group, which has been going since 2000. And that is a combination of management consultancy, coaching, IT consultancy. And we've had amazing long-term relationships with clients in Australia, multinationals as well, and made wonderful shifts in culture and seen people grow. Like my one of my happiest moments is seeing clients I've worked with for 10 years just keep being promoted and growing and being more successful. And I love that.
Absolutely. And you did mention Engage Consulting Group was started in the year 2000. Were you not scared of the Y2K bug? That was something.
No, that after partying like it was 1999, we did party. We realized it was all just a furphy. The world continued; it was going to be okay. And that came into the .com era and sort of technology and digitization, and we were excited by that. Definitely,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that also really showcases the resilience, because if you withstood Y2K, and I think 2008 was another scary year,
Yeah,
and
we had a
then
financial planning. Yeah, yeah,
yes, we also
yeah,
had the pandemic 2020. I don't know if I missed another year in between,
yeah.
obviously, and
Oh,
you
yeah. That's a roller coaster of business, Ross. I didn't even know that. It's not trending upwards all the time. It's a roller coaster. You need to learn to ride those bumps and be okay with that and be prepared for that. They don't last forever. So yeah, we had amazing businesses through that where we built a business from scratch in the IT services business with another partner as well. We ended up having 100 people in our team. We sold that business to an ASX listed company. We did that in 5 years. So from zero to that to an amazing just financial reward in 5 years. That was in between 2010 and 2015. We then tried another business in during COVID when we didn't have any money coming through. We didn't know what to do with ourselves, so we came up with an app business called MyHaven Time, and we did it as a family. And what we did was we created an app which we thought would help people manage their tacit knowledge. It's not an app where the data would be reused. There was no advertising. It was all about having a space where people could just truly be themselves, be present. It had a vision board. It had habit tracker. It had all these wonderful little tools. However, it wasn't the right time. And we got it to a point where we used it with about 50 clients. And after that point, we then realized the software as a service model, which is sort of, everyone talks about getting software as a service model, is such a great way to get revenue. We learned about the implications of keeping any form of app up to date. So we had developers in Australia, we had software developers in Hungary. We were going to maintain, and the cost of maintaining an app from a security point of view, firewall, or just the ability to talk to all the different, from a laptop to iOS to Android, is so costly. And neither my husband or I are actually that keen about that. We realized, okay, we liked the outcome, but we didn't like the process. So big learning there, huge learning there about doing something that you actually love.
Mm. Absolutely. And also talking about a SaaS business, there's the support as well that comes along with it. That needs to be maintained, because
Yeah.
Sally would just be on the app and wants support immediately. And because people have already got that expectation, and that person needs to be paid and available at the call of the client. So yeah, I can only imagine. I can
Yeah,
only
that
imagine what.
was great learning. I call that my Harvard business experience because we learned so much. But it wasn't a success, not in the true sense. But it was a success in terms of us learning and learning more about who we are, what we truly love to do.
Mm.
And since then, we've now another couple of businesses are forming. And now with my daughter, who's now 19, she's a huge creative. She loves drumming. She's working on uni doing film production. She's an artist as well. My husband is a musician, and his dream has always been to have a guitar pedal store. So 2 years ago, we started an online store called Archer Music. And we're now about to launch our Archer Music Studio in our office. So our office is now a beautiful combination of my daughter's art and drumming, my husband's music in terms of guitar and pedals and R&D work he's doing, and then our professional and personal development. So it's like the three elements are all coming together to create this great space where people can improve their vibe, learn, and be creative. So that's where we're at right now.
Absolutely. I love that, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then it's a slog, and you're doing it with
Great.
the people that you love the most.
I
It's
do.
it's it's
Yeah.
Siena you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
You're
Siena. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And now she's obviously having to learn from you after, the experiences that you've had in life, and things of that nature. It should be quite a spectacle right there. But she's also impacted, and she's been a significant influence in your life from what I hear. How
Yeah.
has being a mother, because you started off this conversation as you being the kid in the
Mm.
conversation, and
Yeah.
now we're at a point where you're the mom. How
Mhm.
has that sort of influenced your approach to both personal and personal growth?
Uh, One thing no one told me was how much you learn as a parent.
Mm,
I've learned, no, I think life is university, but I never expected to learn so much from being a parent and being Siena's parent.
mm,
So even just having Siena, we went through IVF. So it took us 3 years to be able to even have her, right? So even that period of just being able to look at my whole body in a different way, look at what I can control in a different way, was huge for me. Because remember, I was a career person. I could get everything done. You work hard to get things done. But with a child or trying to get pregnant, it's not always that easy. And you need to have a lot of help. So the learning I got from being a mum is to actually receive help, not always be the helper. That's been one of the biggest learnings. Secondly, have more fun. As soon as Sienna was born, she was fun. She was creative and expressive, and brought music again back into our life. So I learned to have fun. Um, she was an extremely good radar in terms of emotional state. I remember during 2008, back when you mentioned the financial crisis, one of the other businesses we had was a financial planning business, and it wasn't doing well. So financially, we were at our absolute worst. And my husband and I, who've always worked together, we weren't at our best. She was 2 years old. She was painting black clouds as a 2-year old. And I asked Sienna at that time, honey, what is this painting? What are you doing? And she said, Mummy and Daddy are sad.
Oh,
So even from 2, she could tell what was going on emotionally and give us feedback. And it was so pertinent right then to hear that. That changed our behavior. And it made us become more mature and responsible around how we behave as adults.
wow. And I mean, obviously, as a kid, already noticing that from your parents, and after what you guys had been through, I can imagine that would have been a total wake up call because you wouldn't
It
have want.
was.
Yeah.
Nope. And did not want to do that. But we were unconscious. We became unconscious. She made us helped us become conscious again and present. And then when she was about 7, she was in grade 2. I was just before I got diagnosed with my first cancer. She
Mm.
said to me, and I'll always remember this as well, this little 7-year-old, this gorgeous little face coming up to me and saying, Mum, the mums that don't work, they look really happy. And I said to her, Sienna, Mum's happy. And she again helped me realize that the version I was coming home to after work again
Mhm.
wasn't my best.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think our kids have always done this, but we don't tune in. We don't listen to them.
Absolutely. You see, one thing that I was taught, and thank you so much for sharing this, Serena. I was joking earlier about my my kids as well, but
Yeah.
one thing we don't, or we tend to forget, is every time we're holding them and they're looking at us, they're studying us to see what our faces are
Mhm.
saying, and also they're really close to us. They can feel the energy and the vibe of what we us, and that never leaves them even though they're old. See, I have my 6-year old right now. She takes cues as to whether I'm actually really serious about what we're talking about or daddy's just being daddy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she knows how which face is the one to and how to act. And
Mhm.
it surprises me sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like, "I see," and then she maybe mimics me and she's like, "Eh." But then there's times that then she knows that that was a different one. So she would have been noticing you coming back from work, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and not being as calm or centered as when I'm on the weekends or when I wasn't working. So, um, yeah, and again, she just helped me realize to not be so focused on everyone else, helping everyone else, but focus more on helping myself. And so she's helped me with that too. So that's been great. And she's fun. And kids bring out the youth in us. They remind us how to play, and they see the world so clearly. Like as we get older, we've got so many different lenses that we've put on ourselves, masks we've put on ourselves to get through life, to adapt, or expectations of others. So we didn't want to bring her up in a way where she felt she couldn't be herself. And we love that. We love that she is her
absolutely.
crazy,
And
crazy physical self.
absolutely. While we were going through this, you did mention the first bout of cancer that you went through, but
Yeah.
you faced it 3 times over.
I have.
11 years. And
In the last 11 years, yeah. They've been my, talk about the roller coaster in life. They've been my dips and they've been my awakenings again. I thought I was very healthy. I was fit. I had no illness at all in terms of, dis-ease in terms of physicality. So each time it was a surprise that it came up. And when it did the first time, I was so in shock. It took me probably nearly a year just to accept what I was going through. So I went through the traditional surgeries and chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and I'd never felt so out of control. I felt my body, I'd lost my connection to my body. I was having an out of body experience, and don't feel, you feel so much alive when someone tells you you've got cancer. It's like one of like, what? Hang on. So I know that that first cancer was about helping me become more conscious of being connected to my own body and not focus so much on helping everyone else and receiving help, which I learnt, which I thought I learnt. The second cancer was found by accident. That was something that was growing, which was only a year later, and they found it and they got rid of it easily with no problem. But then the third cancer was a surprise because that happened only 2 years ago. And it happened after my father passed away. And I can relate, I can connect it back to that, the grief, the ability or my inability to deal with the grief, my stoicism in terms of getting on with it. Like, he passed away, organizing a funeral, getting the gravestone, managing my mum with dementia. It was all about being responsible and getting on with life. But I didn't deal with my heart issues. And I, again, took on too much responsibility on behalf of the family, which I shouldn't have. And yeah, but they found it early. So this is a great thing about having mammograms. So they found it early. And again, I went through surgery, January 2023 it was. And then I also had radiation therapy. But this time it was different. This time I was conscious. I was a conscious healer in my process.
Mhm.
I dictated to my surgical team and my Eastern health team what I needed rather than felt like I was being told what to do. So that was the next awakening that I had around, hang on, this is my body. Ultimately, I'm the one who's healing it. I just need people to help me get there rather than the other way around. So it was quite empowering, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, very empowering. And last year was probably my best year of my life. I learnt to do things like create boundaries around people and activities that don't give me positive energy. Um, I realized at work I am my best when I'm focused in what I do at my genius level. So I focused all on my coaching because that's when I know one-on-one I can make the biggest impact. I stopped playing CEO and other roles that really weren't, I could do them, but they're not my genius zone. And they're actually tearing up my energy. They weren't helping me grow or be my best.
Mm.
Um, so that's the great learnings from that. And I think every suffering we have, everyone has something, right? It's that's beautiful, fertile ground for growth to emerge. I think
Mm.
this time I have got the growth and I'm really excited about living and being present. And I just had my birthday last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was just like, wow, it's really good to be alive. Really. And that's the other gift it gives you, right? Living
Yeah.
your life presently.
There's that whole, and thank you so much for sharing with us that whole tidbit of information because, and I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect, when things happen to us, they're actually happening for us. And in this instance, that's exactly what it is that you are saying, that every one of these things that has been happening was somewhat of a pattern break to the life that you had been leading, which had you continued that way, let's say the last one, the grief of dad, I mean, obviously you would have grown together farm, you did paint a picture, and losing that obviously would have been a part of your life that would have
Mm-hmm.
been, taken away with, but that wasn't the end of you. That was actually
No.
birth. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that with us. And now it explains why you're a published author and storyteller, because you really got us engaged in the story, even though it's all about resilience and, the art of, being, and doing and having. Now,
Yeah.
let's just talk maybe about Engage Consulting Group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, based on your life story, your experience,
Mm,
you've come from a very dynamic background where it starts off at a farm. It
mm,
gives you that work ethic, and then you work in the city, you're working with pioneers at their game, and you also have a health experience of your own, which really brings you to, be, like you keep referring to, conscious of your
mm,
journey and things of that nature. That
mm.
gives you a very unique set of skills
It
where
does.
other people only read about certain things from a textbook. You've
Hmm.
lived through
Hmm.
this. So
Yeah.
maybe how do you use
Mhm.
all of these lived experiences to then, you know, work with your clients?
Well, I think the clients I attract are the clients that need me. That's my first assumption in life. People only find me because they're ready to work with me, and vice versa. I'm ready to work with them.
Mm.
Uh, I am much more a holistic executive coach, career coach than maybe some others, and I always look at the whole life of someone and help them examine their whole wheel of life, not just their career, but also their partnerships, their relationships, their health, their nutrition, their fitness, all of that at the same time. I think wellness is a core part of living your best life. So that's what that I brought bringing now that I'd say I wouldn't have done 15 years ago. The other aspect is I'm an optimist, and I think for me, my words are my wand. So the ability to ask the right questions to help people just become awake and then aware, then they do all the work, right? They do all the work. No one can do this for us. So I love the opportunity to create a space, a physical space or a virtual space where they remembered how to empower themselves. Just back to when I was a 16-year-old and someone asked me a great question, I woke up. It changed my life. I
Yeah.
hope to be one of those people that can help people change their own life by asking great questions. I'm also wise now. I know there are ups and downs, bad things. That's not such a bad thing. There's a learning in there if you allow it to really percolate and demonstrate its learning. At the time, it might feel like the most difficult thing possible, but after suffering, there is growth and joy. So being able to play that role as well to say, perspective, how does this fit? How's this going to feel? I can offer that. I also hope I can live a life that's credible, that, you can go through hard things and hard careers and businesses can fail, businesses can succeed, but as you're core to your values, into your genius, into your passion, life is wonderful and curious. And as I said earlier, life is a university. Every opportunity you have, you learn if you see it that way.
Absolutely. I love that. And there's an aspect about well-being and wholeness that you brought to the table, because you can't do well if you don't feel well. You know what I mean? Like, if half, it's like, a table, if one of the legs is not in alignment, everything that's on the table starts falling. So you can imagine, if your life is the top of that table, and maybe your health, your wealth, your relationships, and everything else around you is not, you know um yeah, beating to the same drum.
Fine, stable. Yeah, that's it. So getting that alignment, that coherence, I always love about working with head, heart, and gut.
Yeah,
Like we have amazing intuition as human beings. We have amazing hearts that radiate, amazing energy and, feelings. And we've got an amazing brains, but we seem to be disconnected. Helping people have that beautiful coherence and then that flow is one of my favorite things to do.
absolutely. And yeah, no, if people are looking to maybe feel their way to maybe working with you and experience this, um where would they start? What would be the best place to go to on the internet to find you?
Yeah, oh well, we've got a website. I've got a LinkedIn page. That's always a good start. I've also got some presence on Instagram, but I usually get all my clients from referees. So people find me. Again, people will find me when they need me. So if anyone is curious, yes, LinkedIn or my website's great places to start. Just call me. Just email me or call me, and we can have a chat.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that those numbers and those links will be available when the student is ready, because
Yes.
that's the teach will then appear. But
Hmm.
if you really look at your life story and your experience, there's just so much to pull from. First of all, I don't know if you've done this before, but I feel like you owe us a book. That's the
Oh.
first.
I think I write a lot. I write a lot of blogs. So if you go on my LinkedIn profile, I've got hundreds of blogs I call them streams of consciousness. They just come out. They're just something happens and I don't feel it's me. I feel like I connect with what's going on in the world and it comes through me and I'm very blessed to have that ability. Um, as I said to you earlier, this is my first podcast. I've never really been comfortable talking about myself in this way. I like being the person beside someone or behind them. I'm not necessarily the person at the front, and I've been really comfortable with that. So I prefer more low key approach. And I did publish a poetry book when I was going through chemo. And at the time, it was a way of me creating a legacy. At the time, I did it for my daughter, but yeah, that's something I have published already.
Absolutely. And just in case, somebody would be thinking, I wasn't brought up on a farm. I didn't have an experience to work with Kodak. They were long
Yeah,
gone by the time I'd
they
stepped
are.
on the scene.
That's right.
And I didn't get an opportunity to work in high stakes corporate roles and things of that nature. I don't have a brother called Rocky who sounds like a movie star who can help me, and the parents are
Yeah.
there. Um, then they might just be stuck in the status quo of things and they fear
Oh,
pursuing their own passions. What sort of actionable steps would you maybe recommend that they initiate to change?
I think perspective is really important. Just know that this is just a moment in time and that we are all work in progress. And whatever obstacles you're finding in front of you right now, just take a step back, take a meta view, understand really how big they are, and then breathe through it and just know it will pass. You'll get through it. And then ask for help. If you can't help yourself, ask the people around you. I really believe you need an A team around you. And that includes your relationships, your partners, your friends, but also mentors and coaches to support you through it. All successful people have A teams around them. But even if you can't reach to that, just realize that we all at different times of our life feel obstacles. It's just part of life. It's the roller coaster of life. Doesn't mean that defines us. One experience doesn't define us. But if there's a pattern of you experiencing that over and over again, now that's a sign that there's an awakening that is required and that you need to do some work internally.
Absolutely. And once you start recognizing those patterns, then you know when you need to work on that. It's a whole lot of self-awareness that needs to go into that.
Yes, it
Now,
is.
Sarina, when we started this conversation, you introduced us to a 16-year-old who was asked what they would want to be in their future.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to pose that question again, Sarina.
Mm.
Knowing where you've been, knowing who you are becoming, what's next? What are you going to be in the future, Sarina?
I'm curious to see that too. I think my best is still ahead of me because I'm work in progress, and I'm really excited about potential opportunities and becoming more creative in business and seeing how the world emerges. I'm an optimist, so I'm looking at a future that is more positive rather than less positive. And I think rather than helping outside as much as I used to, I'm going to help as much to myself. That's the difference now. The more my realization last year was the more I work on myself, the more calmer I am, the more aware I am, the more well I am, the more I can actually help others just by being that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know when the last time you would have flown, Sarina. What's the one thing they usually tell us in a plane? Put your mask on first so that you can be helpful to
Yeah.
others. Because if you're also going to be gasping for air, then you're of no use to the people around you. So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. And I actually am no longer believing that this has been your first podcast.
Oh, yes, it is. Thank you for making it so easy, Prosper, and for being so kind with your intentions and questions. I really appreciate it.
I will receive that. I mean, your life story and your experience have so much that I don't think this 45 minutes has done it that much justice. But I think if anyone is curious and wants to learn a whole
Yeah.
lot more about resilience and creativity, which is already inherent in all of us, then
Yeah.
they should find their way and use it as a testing ground to see if they are actually in alignment, if they can be
Yeah.
able to reach out to you and connect with you. And we'll just
Yeah.
leave the information in the show notes there, just so that people can
Okay.
find their path
And
there.
And Prosper, when people do contact me, it won't be at all about me. It'll all be all about them. And what I love to do is create a space, a very sacred space for people just to be all of them. And yeah, so it won't be about me at all. It'll all be about them, and just I'll just bring all that life history with me if needed, and tools and techniques to help them be their best versions of themselves.
I think that's all they need. Really, that is really all they need. But I really appreciate your time. I mean, thank you so much for making space and for
Yes.
allowing us to dive into all these topics, and yeah, sharing just this little bit of your journey with us. And I can't wait to see what people are going to do with this information today.
Thank you. Thank you, Prosper. All the best.
And if you're still watching this right now, just leave us a thumbs up. Obviously, this has been one of those enlightening episodes on the Online Prosperity Show. And if you actually found the insights in this call beneficial to you, why don't you share this with somebody who's just going through stuff in their life and they don't quite know what their next option could be, because the ideas that are in here could actually help them be, do, and have a happier existence. Until next time, keep striving for prosperity and fulfillment in all aspects of your life. Bye for now.